Hello and welcome back to Broadside Gaming with me, Zug. So this is the last video in the Psyker series. I'm sure you're all very pleased with that. And in this one, it's time for gun fun. So let's jump in and have a look, shall we? So this is a pure gun Psyker build. And before we jump into the melee weapons, we will talk over the ranged ones. So as you can see here, I've got three different versions of the Recon Lasgun. Got the Mark II, which is the balanced. We've got the Mark 7A, which is the heavy. It fires a lot slower, but does more damage. And then we've got the Mark 6D, which is less damage, but much faster. Last gun goes brrr. This is my favourite one, but you will run out of ammo like an absolute beast, and your team will get very annoyed. As the Psyker has no real way of regenerating ammo, like the Veteran does, so you will be snaffling ammo like an absolute monster, but it is also a hilarious build. But if you don't like the different flavours of Recon Lasgun, you can also go for the Infantry Autogun. As you can see here, it's got crit, range damage elites, Dum Dum, and Death Spitter. Perk-wise, you can change this, and I would suggest Flak and Maniac damage. The only thing I don't like about the Mark V Autogun is the hip firing on it. Absolutely lovely. As soon as you go to aim down sights, the damn thing decides to try and ascend to heaven. So aim low and it sprays up. I just find it slightly annoying, that's all. It's a good weapon, it's a very good weapon, and I do enjoy playing with it. It's just that one little niggle for me. So we'll go through the guns and I'll show you the different ways of building them. So for the Recon Lasguns, it's all pretty much the same. You want flak armor and maniac, or flak armor and crit, or flak armor and weak spot damage. And for the blessings, you want Infernus and you want Death Spitter, or Infernus and Dum Dum, both of which are very useful. It's just depending on what flavor you want. Do you want close range damage and repeated hits, stacks 5 times? It's a very good blessing for the Recon Lasgun because you're hitting extremely fast. Or Death Spitter, 6.5% power for 3.5 seconds on close range kill. It doesn't say it, but this does stack 5 times as well. I would probably say go with Dum Dum over Death Spitter, just because it's easier to deal with. But it's completely up to you. And as you see, all these are built basically the same. Perks aren't great on them because I basically just kept with what they had. And as for the Infantry Autogun, Dum Dum and Death Spitter, as I said before. Both of these are very good and will give you a lot of damage over the course of the game. So, the melee weapons. With this, it's basically up to you. Like I've said in all the other videos, the melee weapon isn't set in stone here. You can go for the Demius, which is what I usually use with Flak and Maniac on, blessings-wise, Slaughter and Uncanny Strikes. But you can also use the Macabian Mark IV Dueling Sword with Maniac and Crit, or Maniac and Flak Armor, along with Shred and Uncanny Strikes. And if you really want to, you can use the Shockmaul. I would suggest with Opportunist and Thrust with Flak and Maniac perks on it. But it's basically totally up to you. You can also use an Ilias if you really want to. Shred Uncanny Strikes, or Shred and Blazing Spirit. They're all pretty decent. I tend to just stick with the Demius. And if you want a little bit more defense, go for a Demius with Deflector. It will keep you safe from most ranged attacks. Right, so that's the weapon sorted. Let's have a look at the curios. Again, I'm using the same ones as usual. Toughness curio with extra toughness, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. And a health curio with increased health, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. And last but not least, to no surprise to anyone, I'm using a +3 stamina with increased toughness, combat ability regeneration, and damage resistance gunners. I keep saying this, and I've said this in all of the videos, the increased stamina is almost completely mandatory on the Psyker if you want to play anything above Heresy. Damnation and Auric is required to keep you alive. because your stamina will not hold out and you will get overwhelmed and mauled. But with this, you have a lot more options to dodge, dive, duck, and weave, and also block with your melee weapon. It's just how it is. I'm not happy having to use the stamina trinket because I would prefer to use either a health or a toughness, but it is what it is on the Psyker. Right, let's jump into the talents. I'm just going to change the weapon back to the... Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. I like using the Mark 6D. Right, talent-wise, we're going to be using Metal. Critical hits replenish 5% toughness, also grants 5% increased movement speed for 4 seconds and 3 stacks. Sadly, we're not using any warp damage here, so the perfect time is pointless to us. So we're taking Quietude, replenish 5% toughness for each 10% of perils quelled. Sorry about that. And Warp expenditure, replenish 2.5% toughness for every 10% perils generated. Battle Meditation, 10% chance to quell 10% perils on kill. Toughness boost, toughness. We're taking Brain Rupture just because if we have to, we can Brain Rupture a target at extreme distances, or if you're having to hide around a corner, you can dip out, grab it as a target, and jump back in. And then we come down here, Perils Generation. And you're probably wondering, why have we got all this Perils Generation debuffs and quelling and all this sort of thing? We're not using a staff or any sort of ability. We'll come to that. We're taking Seer's Presence, 10% cooldown reduction on ability of unit allies and coherency. One with the Warp, gain toughness damage reduction of 10 to 33% based on your current perils. Empathic Evasion, critical hits make you count as dodging a ranged attack. I absolutely adore this ability, it's one of the best in the tree. And this is why we're taking all of the Perils generation and why we want all of the above talents. Scries Gaze. Triggering Scries Gaze, when entering Scries Gaze, you gain 10% damage and 20% critical chance for every second inside Scries Gaze. You gain 1% damage for up to a 30%. This effect lingers for 10 seconds after you leave. While in Scries Gaze, you build up peril. Build up is temporarily slowed down by enemy kills at 100% peril. Scries Gaze ends. Basic cooldown 25 seconds. Then we're also grabbing Precognition. Weak spot kills count as 1 second spent in Scries Gaze. Warp Speed. Scries Gaze now increases your movement speed by 20% while active. And Endurance. Scries Gaze now grants 20% toughness damage reduction while it's active. This is basically what the build is based around. And I'll show you more of that when we get outside of the skill tree. Then we come over here on the left to get the health boost. Warp Rider, deal up to 20% damage increased as your perils increase. This is going to be increased by Scries Gaze. Toughness boost. Kinetic Deflection. This is going to help us block. True Aim, landing 5 weak spot hits grants your next attacker guaranteed critical hit. This is going to really help, especially on guns like the Recon Lasgun, as it's going to help proc Infernus a lot more. Then we're going to be grabbing the Toughness node and then into Disrupt Destiny. Every second, enemies within 25 meters have a chance of being marked. Killing a marked enemy replenishes 10% toughness, grants 20% movement speed for 2.5 seconds, and adds a precision bonus. Each precision bonus grants 1% damage, 2% critical damage, and 2.5% weak spot damage. Precision bonus stacks 15 times, and when the duration ends, 1 stack is removed and the duration is refreshed, so you don't lose them all at the same time. Then we're going to grab Purloined Providence. Killing an enemy marked by Disrupt Destiny has a 20% chance to instantly quell 15% of your perils. We want all of this quelling because we want to stay in Scries Gaze for as long as we can. So all of these talents are built towards reducing the amount of perils we gain and randomly knocking them down so we can stay in Scries Gaze for the maximum amount of time. Increase the duration of Disrupt Destiny from 4 seconds to 10. Cruel Fortune, weak spot kills grant 2 additional stacks of Disrupt Destiny. So we're being rewarded for being accurate. So this is also the build I've used to do the penance for the Psyker, which is kill 40 enemies while under 1 Scries Gaze, I think. I have no idea where it is. Let's see if I can see the damn thing. Cliffhanger, no. First steps. Just want the goddamn name for it. Oh well. I'm being blind, I can't see it. Oh, it's probably down here actually. Perilous focus, there we go. Kill 40 enemies under the effect of a single Scries gaze. And I basically got this by popping Scries gaze and unloading my gun into a horde. So, again, when we're in the Psyker, Disrupt Destiny doesn't work, so I can't show that off properly. But what it'll be is kind of like the veterans mark targets. Instead of yellow, they'll be blue. You want to prioritize killing these because it gives you increased damage. So the general guide to the build is press Scries gaze, shoot everything. Keep shooting till nothing's moving. And every time we kill things, it helps reduce our perils. And as soon as we get to 100, we automatically get kicked out. There is very little ways to over-peril yourself in this build unless you keep charging at your sword. That is the only way. You're going to explode. But I mean, if you've used this enough to explode, you've probably got other problems. So there you go. That is literally the only way to do it. And if you decide to use the knife, the shock wall, or the dueling sword, there is no way in this build you can actually peril yourself. So, as you can see, it does quite decent damage against crushers. I wouldn't suggest hosing them down, but if you really have to, you can. And against everything else, it's pretty decent. This is a very fun build to use. It's very much like playing a veteran, just with more power. The one downside is you will go through ammo like it's going out of fashion. You will use so much ammo and require so many pickups that your team will probably get quite annoyed with you. So if you don't want that, obviously I would say switch over to the Mark V auto gun, as it uses slightly less, but it's totally up to you. I really enjoy this build. It's just a bit strange. And I really hope you guys enjoy it too. And if you do, please do like, subscribe, ring that little bell for notification. It really does help us out. There we go. It really does help us out, guys. So, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you all for the next one. So, till then, take it easy, and I'll see you later.